Well, I think that our goal and objective this week, obviously, we learned about some, things in the scrimmage after watching the film. So the focus for 2 days is to continue to try to install things and challenge our players to learn more of the things that they need to know. Today was the first day that we actually worked on next year's opponents, looking at things that we don't see from, our own offense or our own defense that we will have to play against next year, so that, our players sort of get the basic fundamental resource of information that they need, so that when the time comes next year, we won't be starting from scratch. But the basis of what we saw in the scrimmage gave us a lot of things that we wanted to improve on. Some areas, I didn't think we tackled very well in defense. I talked about that, so we really made an emphasis of thudding and tackling this week in practice. I didn't think we played up front. We didn't strike blockers and hold the point like we need to, so that's been a big emphasis for us. We threw the ball fairly well. Receivers played pretty well in the scrimmage, but we still need to do a better job in consistency and protection and those types of things when we throw the ball, so that we can minimize negative plays, and that's been a big point of emphasis for us. But we're still trying to focus on fundamental improvement, knowledge to the players. We didn't make as many mental errors in the last scrimmage as what we did sort of a year ago, but the effort and the toughness and the intangible things that we're really looking for is something that we need to continue to work on and improve, which has been an emphasis in practice for 2 days, and I think we have made some progress in that area. I think the biggest thing with players in spring practice is to challenge them to have consistency in performance, and it all comes from mental energy and intensity on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they all know what days we're practicing: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, so they should look forward to those days with a positive energy and attitude about what they want to accomplish individually and collectively, as a unit and a team, so that go out there with the positive energy and attitude you need to do to improve and get the most out of each drill that we do. So I thought we did a pretty good job on Monday, and today, even though it was a little windy out there, it was probably a little bit harder to throw the ball today than what it has been. But I thought we made some progress in that area. But we still have some guys that struggle to be consistent, up and down. Really good one day, and that comes from maturity and understanding that to be a dangerous, competitive player, that comes from a relentless ability to be consistent in what you do regardless of what happened on the play before. And that's in all athletics, I mean, even if you play golf, if you hit a bad shot, you got to play the next one. That's the most important shot. If you hit a great shot, you still got to play the next one. So, you got to be able to deal with success and failure, and that's something that we have a little more maturity on this team, but we need some young guys that need to continue to step up to do that.
I was going to ask you, as far as the quarterback battle, with the game experience that A.J. got last fall, has that given him any advantage or edge at all this spring?
Not in terms of what we're doing now, because, basically what we're doing now is evaluating what they're doing right now. Every day in practice, they're getting a lot of similar opportunities. They're getting a lot of the same number of reps in the same kind of competitive situation. So I think this is a much truer barometer for us to go on. And just because someone played some last year, I don't think anyone should assume that gives them an advantage. So, and both guys have done a really good job so far. Are they where they need to be? We'd like to continue to see them both improve. Are we disappointed in where they are? Absolutely not. And we feel like both guys have got some talent, and we'd like to try to utilize that the best we can.
You've had some great recruiting classes here. How much talent is on the field right now compared to your first or second spring here?
Well, I say this in recruiting when all these classes get rated. Who's rating them, number one? How accurate is the rating, number two? Because you really don't know whether a guy's going to develop into a good college football player or not. There's so many factors, attitude, intelligence, what it means to him, intangibles. Does he fit into a position and a role that actually, gives him a future as a football player, as a college football player? So, and then the other thing is does a guy get rated higher because we recruit him? So, to me, all that is nonsense. I think we have good players. I think we have enough good players to have a good team. How good those players want to be will probably go a long way to determining how good a team we have. So I think it's, more about that than it is anything else at this point, to me at least.
Coach, there's the cliche about getting better from the first game to the second game. Is that true? First scrimmage to second scrimmage, do you look for a real?
Yeah, I think
uptick?
to a large degree that the first time guys go out there, especially young guys, they're probably there's a little anxiety that probably sort of affects their ability to perform. The best way to have positive performance is low anxiety, high achievement motivation. That's what I always thought, and I think that's probably true. And probably high anxiety and low achievement motivation is not good, but high anxiety and high achievement motivation is not the best way to go about it either. So I think as these guys get more playing experience, they're going to be more confident. There'll be less anxiety. They're going to see the things that they needed to improve on, which is going to help them improve from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2. And I think there'll be, especially in certain players, this will be a big jump for them.
Trent Richardson, do you look for maybe a little more out of him on the field, off the field, just because before the younger guys kind of had Ingram to look to, but now maybe they're looking towards him?
Well, Trent's always been a good leader for us. He really has. I think a lot of players respect him. He's always been a part of the peer group leadership program here, and he's been a leader on the field by the way he competes, the kind of person that he is, the way he practices every day. He's a really good person, so I think he always affects the people around him in a positive way. I think his role is going to be more significant now that he's sort of the back, for us. And I think his leadership will have maybe a greater impact. Not that we're going to ask him to be anything that he hasn't been, because he has been very good in all those regards. But now I think because of his role, he may have a more significant impact with that leadership and personality and energy that he has.
Okay, and he follow up. He said he didn't feel like he was the starter when he opened spring. He felt like he had to earn it like everybody else. Kind of attitude you want from a guy in his position?
Well, no doubt. We want all of our players to feel that way. I'm not going to go into it, but there's some guys that got demoted for the way they played in the last scrimmage because they didn't seem to have that attitude. And anybody around here that has the feeling of entitlement, that just because they played last year they don't have to do things at a standard that we've set for what we want, I don't care if it's effort that they give, toughness that they give, ability to focus and execute, however you want to break it down, then if we have somebody else, we'll replace them. And we had a few players that I didn't feel like really responded that way, and hopefully, and what guys don't understand is sometimes when we make those little changes, how they respond to the change goes a long way to telling me what kind of competitor they are. Because if they pout about it, that's not really what we want. So they're digging a bigger ditch. Trent never did that. Trent absolutely goes out there every day and competes, wants to get better, because he's playing to a standard. He has a high standard that he wants to achieve to. It's important to him. So what he did last year means nothing. What he's doing now is going to affect what he can do in the future, and that's what everybody should be focused on. Same way with our team. So, and I think we have a lot to prove from what we did last year. So hopefully everybody else feels the same way.
Coach, just wondering about Alfred McCullough and his role this spring. What's he How's he been doing?
Alfred's done a nice job. You know, there's competition at left tackle between him and Aaron Douglas. And, you know, Alfred obviously has a little bit more experience, knows the offense a little bit better. But Aaron's making nice progress as well. You know, we feel, you know, really good about some of the way some of the tackle prospects on our team have progressed. You know, Shepard's done a nice job, Fluker's done a nice job. Those guys have improved. I feel like the offensive line has, you know, continued to make progress because we did play with a lot of young guys last year, and I feel like they've actually all showed some improvement this year, and I think the depth is better because of that as well.
And also with Daquan Menzie, the difference between him being healthy as opposed to last year.
Well, I think that Daquan Menzie was a guy that if you went on a last scrimmage based on him being healthy and being able to practice all the time, you know, I sort of felt like in that particular game, in that particular scrimmage, he was our best corner. And I think because of that, you know, maybe the guy expands his role on our team, you know, but it makes good competition because we have 3 guys that have played a significant amount at that position. So be interesting to see how those guys compete and respond to that. All right, thank you.